Hey guys, welcome to the Deckstar Plans channel. My name is Kieran, and today we are back with another podcast talking all things sectors. We're going to be talking about Cad Bane, we're going to be talking about Berlin, Indi. We're going to be talking about also at the end what makes a top player. So make sure you stay to the end so you can find out some tips and tricks about the game. Today we are joined by Alex from Blue Milk Gaming. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey Kieran, doing well. Glad to be here.
We've talked, we've messaged, we've chatted. It's actually the first time that we've spoken face to face, so it's nice to actually speak to you properly. Hopefully, we can start doing this a lot more. I'm also joined by Josh on the team. How you doing, Josh?
Yeah, pretty good. Surviving the UK heatwave, but only just. Yeah.
Yeah, if you see me or Josh absolutely sweating, please look away for the time being. Yeah, as I said, today we're going to have a little chat. We're going to be talking about, as you can see on the screen, Cad Bane. We're going to be talking about the new releases that came out yesterday and the prestige art. But we're going to start it off with Cad Bane. Now, if you saw our video last week, me and the team talked about Cad being, a little bit overpowered, a little bit sort of broken in terms of what it does, in terms of the leader and the things that it got with it. But we want to get a different point of view. We want to look into the other side of the pond. We want to see what Alex thinks of Cad. We can look at some stats. He has some interesting data to go on about it. Alex, what is your thoughts on Cad Bane as a leader?
Yeah, I think it's now this horse we're all beating to death in the community of Buck Cad Bane, and for no, it's not for nothing, not for a good reason. And I'm always one to be a little hesitant to the ban, especially now that I've dipped my toes in other TCGs like Pokemon, where we have it really good in SWU compared to some other TCGs. Like with Pokemon, there's one deck, Dragapult, has been I think like 30, 40+% of their meta for like over a year now, like Django levels, but then sustained for a long period of time. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just something that I having gone around a little bit now, I'm not as fan happy maybe as others. Like I'm kind of okay, especially because Cat isn't like as miserable of a play experience as like a Django was. At least you're playing as Cat, you get to play the game, generally speaking. Um, but yeah, I think Chimera, as everyone you both talked about, is one of the root problems. But I will share the one thing that you mentioned that I was going to talk about. That I think is a pretty interesting piece of data is related to the CAD like overall win rate. We compare the rating band, like the rating level of each player piloting the deck,
Yeah.
and most other rating, like all rating bands, it's about it's still one of the top, if not the top deck. But like comparable to other decks, like with all bands, it's 58% for Cad Bane, but then it's 58% for Krennic as well, for example. But then when you go to like the upper echelon of players, the 1900 rated or above players, Cad has a 70% win rate. That is about 8% higher than anything below it, which I think, as far as I can find, is the largest gap of any of these rating bands. And all that to say is that I think it tells me that if you're like one of the top players, you kind of have to be playing Cad Blue, or you're just putting yourself behind everyone else.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is a great spot to begin. I'm curious to hear, if that changes your guys' thoughts at all, Josh or Kieran.
Yeah, Josh?
Yeah, for sure. Nearly 10% jump at the higher skill levels is a massive jump, and yeah, it kind of rewards the good players for playing better. But then when you look further down skill ratings, which is where I find myself most of the time, given my like rating, um, it looks more balanced, you would say, right? Because the percentage differences between first, second, third are much closer, much tighter. The likes of Ahsoka and Vader also getting a good showing in those ones for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to put it on the screen now for you guys to have a look, but this is on HRI GG. If you haven't seen it already, please have a look. It's an amazing website to see all things about your own personal rating that I know I have seen mine go down and down over the last couple of PQs. But you can also see things, as you see now, the meta, you can see decks. And this is actually the first time I've been introduced to it, so thank you very much for showing me this. But yeah, I mean, a 10% jump is massive. Whether it doesn't matter what size you're comparing it to, 10% is a lot. Us as a team, we've noticed, Darth Vader to be very good against Cad Bane. Whether that be, being very defensive on your playstyle or even just aggressive, you can just turn cardboard sideways and win the game. Doesn't matter what you're playing against. But for me, recently in the past couple of PQs, I haven't done well. I've taken Cad Bane. I've still not done as good as I can do. And I think for my point of view, especially when it comes to PQs, is you see a lot of like weird decks. Like I remember my first PQ after Galactics, thinking, I'm going to be playing mirrors all day, and it's Von Rig yellow. You play straight away, and it's like, where did this come from? And then your next game is Sabine, the new Sabine yellow, and it's like, I did not prepare for this at all. And I think Cad Bane can sometimes get caught out, especially players after Galactics being like, this is a very good deck, I'm going to take it, and then play these weird interactions leaders, and you're like, that doesn't do so well. But you can definitely see, if you're thinking about going to a tournament, whether that be at any level, Cad Bane definitely is the best one to take from a milder point, from a big point of view. But Darth Vader and Ahsoka. I mean, I'd like to see, talk a little bit about Ahsoka. We can move a little bit on from Cad Bane, in terms of talking about meta. But Ahsoka Blue has done very well in America. It's not done so well in the UK. I'm not sure why that is. What's your thoughts on Ahsoka Blue?
Yeah, I mean, I like the deck a lot. I streamed it a bit a couple weeks ago and had a blast playing it. I think, yeah, it is interesting to try to observe the differences in meta across different geographical regions, and I feel like stereotype you could say is that you have more control players in Europe than you maybe have in the US. So that might kind of explain at a high level why you don't see as much success for the ground aggro decks that can then just run into a literal wall with the new sentinels that control gets to throw at them. Um, so yeah, I think it's an interesting point there, but yeah, I'm really curious to see how we're going to see the meta. 'Cause we have these two sectors, right? Not to jump back too far ahead, but we have the Berlin sector this weekend and then the Indy sector the following weekend. I'm really curious to be able to look back and see what are the kind of bulk differences in meta. But I'm not really sure. Never really the best at predicting a meta myself, but yeah.
Yeah, from our testing, we've seen Ahsoka do not great into CAD. There's been different builds, different ways. I know at Galactics, ECL took, some of them took Ahsoka thinking it was good into CAD, but that's not what we've seen in ours. So it's quite interesting, as you said, seeing the differences between, the same game, but in a completely different area of the world, how different it is when it comes to, is that because of playstyles? Is that because of what people are taking in general? But yeah, just going a little bit back onto Cad Bane, do you think it's going to be banned? Do you think, like, if it carries on this way, if the sectors show up? Alex, what are your thoughts on Cad being banned?
I think it's going to have to be a significant shift, especially in like the top eights of these two sectors. Like if we see like 6 out of 8 in one or two of these sectors, I think we'll see a ban. But I think patterns have shown that FFG will not ban until there's like sufficient data supporting the ban. So I think it'll be after the sectors will be the real test to see if like are we able to respond to CAD in some way, or is CAD just going to be this overwhelming threat that even if it's not as unfun to play against as a Django, it still is a little bit too much for this meta. So to answer more directly, I think he will be, because I think he will show up at the sectors and even more top eights than we saw in Worlds. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm bringing. I'll just say, a spoiler. I'm bringing CAD, and it's not some spice or anything. That's some surprise. So, but I wouldn't, as a CAD player, I wouldn't be sad to see it go. I think people forget. Also, last thing I'll say, the suspended list is supposed to be potentially temporary, right? They can put things on and take things off the list. I could see a Chimera or a CAD kind of temporary suspension until we get some more cards that kind of catch that power level up in other colors. But curious, Josh, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's a point I've not really considered around temporarily putting things on the list and then bringing them off when the new card pool comes out. But I respect the approach that they're taking. It's a very conservative kind of let's wait and see what happens approach, and I think that's definitely better than jumping the gun and slamming the ban hammer on cards way too early. And I actually think maybe that approach of temporarily putting something on there could be it could be a way they go. Yeah, I like the idea.
Yeah, because every time they do ban it, it is always a temporary. I don't think they have permanently banned anything. Like all the, I'm not sure. Have they? Is that what they said?
Well, they haven't unbanned anything, so it kind of has been a permanent, right? But
Yeah,
we know theoretically that they could unban Boba 1 tomorrow if they really wanted to, but
Yep.
yeah.
I think from a design perspective as well, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I like to look at different leaders that have similar abilities, and it almost feels like CAD has too few hoops to jump through to reach its ability. It doesn't cost anything. It can hit anything that has 2 HP. And I look at like other leaders that I like Jabba from Seekers of Power, which is one of my favorite leaders. He has to jump through so many hoops to reach an ability that's not quite as good. And
right.
that for me just feels like maybe there was not quite, the right balance of power on the leader side for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's, our last video did so well in terms of engagement, in terms of people voicing their opinion. So it's nice to hear, even though we're talking all about the same thing, what other people's views are, whether that is a more conservative point of view or it's ban it tomorrow, I'll need it gone because I can't play the game. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next bit, which is taking a little bit of a break in terms of the meta, in terms of going about so heavy in terms of banning. And it's talking about the new prestige. Now, me being my main job is a graphic designer. I design stuff, whether that be logos, things, whatever it may be. I love art in general. So seeing the new prestiges being released, again, I'll have them on the screen now for you guys to see. I'm in love with them. I'm in love with all of the styles, apart from one, but I'm going to let you guys voice your opinions on what you may think that what that is. But Alex, what's your views on prestiges in general? And obviously, this new one just come out. We've seen it in Discord that some people are hyped for it, some people aren't. What is your views on the prestiges in general?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'm a big fan. I love me some shiny cardboard. Like I'm kind of notorious for over blinging out some of my decks, especially Obi-Wan and set 7. Yeah, I won't get too much into it, but so yeah, I guess my overall thoughts, is that I will say I was a little disappointed when they first redoing the Legends of the Force style. 'Cause I think that's my least favorite they've done. I think it's a pretty common take that most people I've heard voice. But then the new ones, to me, more than made up for that a couple of them being reused. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of them, but we can definitely get more into it. I'm sure I'll let Josh give his overall thoughts first, though.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like I'm really happy that they're establishing art styles and frameworks and revisiting those frameworks that they've set out. Because I think Luminara is the one we're talking about here, doesn't really fit, like, at least from what we've seen, doesn't fit into like another group of artworks. So it makes sense, especially if they have some artwork left over from their Legends of the Force like run, to revisit that and let people have the same kind of art styles from different sets. And because when you see an art style that you like, if people do like it, they can then go all in and get everything that's that version. And I think even if we don't necessarily love the artwork that they've or the style they've returned to, I like the idea that we're revisiting frameworks that we've already built, which is a nice kind of touch. Because that's something I think I've missed in like other TCGs that I've played. And then just a note on those Ewoks, like wow, they are fantastic. It looks like they're from a different game, like some kind of indie board game Kickstarter kind of thing. Yeah, they're awesome. Love them.
Yeah, everyone knows what I was talking about. The Luminara art. I can see where they're going with it. If you put all of the yellow prestiges from Legend of the Force, they will all connect. So if you're trying to put this in binders, if you're trying to put this on as a display piece, they will connect because I think it is just the same art again and again. So I can see from a visual point of view how they can come up with this, and it's nice, as you said, the revisiting it. It's just I know these were done long ago. The FFG works in a way where the set that you're currently on right now was probably designed a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So they've not had time to fully change maybe some styles, the feedbacks that they've got, because I think Legends of Force was the least loved prestige art when it came to them connected ones. You had the trifecta cards and the double cards, which I think were absolutely amazing. But prestige is meant to be a premium product. You're paying, from our point of view, we're paying £200+ for a box of like 12 packs. I'm not sure how expensive they are in America. Probably $300 plus dollars.
Retail, yeah, 300.
Yeah. And
So,
that's what you're paying for. It's that prestige art. So it's good, and I really love how FFG are moving it forward. And I think also as well, when you look at the designs, this is the first time, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that they have changed the artwork on the attack and defense icons. So when you look at the attack and defense icons, they've actually
oh,
changed the style of it. So all before, they used to be the same. They used to be always that diamond and circle thing, but they've actually removed. I'm not sure if it's just in the art one that they've done, but they've got a similar style, but they've removed that edging
hmm.
around it, which I think is quite nice.
I hadn't even noticed that, and I'm now falling more in love with these new prestige artworks. It's insane.
Yeah, because they are
That's probably
similar in they are very similar in terms of like when you put them side by side, but then that little bit that comes out of the back has gone. So I think that also shows that they can completely change the way that our card looks. We've seen it with Annihilator in JTL, and now we're seeing it again with home mods.
Which one's your guys' favourites? Just a quick fire question. Which one out of the release ones would you say is number one?
Mine
Payments.
is the dragon. I love the
Nice.
dragon. I love the framing. I think that overall it just as I said, I love all these little attention to detail things that they're doing. The only thing that I'm a little bit unhappy about is some of the text just isn't, some bits aren't lined up properly, and it really annoys me. But overall, I love the dragon one. I think it's my favorite.
Alex, what about you?
I was gonna say Boss Nass. Actually, I think I just love the blue,
Yeah.
the blue milk colors, and I don't know. I think it looks pretty sweet, even though, and I haven't even seen if it's how good of a card it is either. But regardless, the art is very lovely.
Yeah, you've stolen my answer there. I was gonna input Boss Nass because that is without a doubt the best one.
Yeah, them type of cards, you got that like the Art Nouveau feel to the style, and if you see them in four as well, they're beautiful. They're so good. So I'm very happy with how FFG are taking it. I'm very happy with the design style, but please try to move on from this Legend of the Force borders, because this other stuff that you're doing is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, was you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, let's not jump away from revisiting old things because it means they can return to this Boss Nass style in next sets too.
Yes.
So like revisit the good stuff,
Yeah, keep Boss Nass. If you can do him in every set going forward, Josh will be
Yeah.
very happy with that. Amazing. Yeah, so as I said, we're taking a bit of a detour, having a bit of relax, getting into it, talking about styles, arts. We're now going to go to the sectors. Now, for us in Europe, this is starting tomorrow or Saturday. I'm not sure if it's a weekend thing, but it's this weekend. I know Indi is next weekend, and we need to talk about what we think it's going to be. What's our prediction? What do we think people are going to take? Obviously, Cad Bane is very popular. It's very much the number one deck, I'm pretty sure, in these two sectors. But we'll start off with Josh. Me and you aren't going to sectors. We're not going to be attending these. But from an outsider looking in, for people who haven't really, tested as much as these people that are going, what is your thoughts on these two? What do you think is going to be the big bad apart from Cad Bane?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, good I'm not going because it would have been awesome to head out to Berlin. It's an awesome city. I love it. But secondly, I'm really looking forward to watching. So I'm looking forward to see what plays out. And I think, as you've said, CAD is going to be everywhere. But as you kind of referred to earlier, something I think Cormac mentioned from our team as well around one of his experiences at a recent PQ is that you can play feasibly anything in any round of any tournament, right up to the late rounds. So I'm looking forward to seeing those spicier picks, maybe some Ahsoka, maybe not necessarily in blue. I think there's a space to explore the space yellow variant too. So maybe see some of that. I think Vader will be played a ton. It's easy enough to play and very cheap to build. Like you got to consider as well, like when we look back at Galactics, a significant barrier for people playing CAD was getting hold of the cards, right? Like,
Yeah.
getting hold of those legendaries that were, 35, 40 pounds each. was a barrier. So maybe the Cad Bane play rate increases, and it could do so as people start to amass the cards they need for it.
Yeah, the last couple of PQs I've been to after Galactics, even speaking to people playing CAD, they're not playing blue, and I'm like, why? Why are you playing green? Why are you playing yellow? And the actual answer was, I haven't had time to get the legendaries. So that's probably why, it was still higher and massive in Galactics, but it could have been even more if people could have easily had access to these cards. Yeah, I'd like to see Ahsoka. Me being a natural, aggressive playstyle, Yularen Reds. I'd love to see Ahsoka be on top of the meta. I'd love to see it, but I'm not sure it can with CAD. Alex, coming from the other side, our metas are completely different. Are you thinking anything else apart from CAD? Obviously, I know you said you're playing it, but
Yeah, I did open my armor showcase
Yeah.
yesterday, Tuesday or so. So I have been playing a good amount of armor, but even though I did win a PQ here in Texas by my buddy Hunter, um, I'm still not quite brave enough to not play CAD, and the CAD meta is kind of what it comes down to. And it just feels like I think I said earlier, like if especially since I've been playing CAD since that set came out, like it'd be kind of disservice to myself to not play it. And I don't hate the mirror, to be honest. So I'll knock on some wood first, in case before I lose, 3 mirrors in a row, in Indy next other weekend. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of CAD, and I think it won't be as much as maybe people might think. It still won't be more than 20-ish% of the total field, which like you guys were saying, like it's still 80% of the field is not CAD. So, but I think the difference is we'll see once we get to like day 2 or like the top tables, you're going to see way more CAD than anything else for sure. So, um, yeah, I don't expect to be surprised at this point after Galactics. Like this point, I think we're going to see this kind of the same trend play out a little bit. And I guess like we talked about earlier, maybe having a ban to come at the end of the month, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Alex. What weighting do you put on the results of Berlin in your preparation for Indy? How much do you think you're going to change, potentially alter little fine tunings in your list in preparation, having seen Berlin play out?
I would have to take it pretty strongly as like a very strong data point, because even if it's a different region, I still think like the regional differences are smaller compared to the chance of just seeing our first major tournament. If I had 2 major tournaments, I have a US one and an EU tournament to compare, sure, then I would make it weight a little differently. But I still definitely think it'll factor, especially if it comes down to picking the sideboard, which is often I never really finalized until the week of the event. So I think seeing the breakdown of like the other decks is gonna be very telling to see like, are there gonna be more Luke pilots now than Vader? Is Vader going to decline because of the rise of Luke? Are we going to see like y'all are saying like more Ahsoka? Um, those kind of little trends will kind of dictate maybe those couple sideboard slots. But yeah, I think those are the main changes I would look to make. But I always look forward to having more data to analyze. So I'm looking forward and to watch too on this weekend.
Yeah. Talking about Luke actually is something I wanted to talk about in terms of people, going to Berlin or Indy, in this preparation is when you look at the meta share in the last couple of weeks, apart from Cad Bane, we've seen Vader and Luke pilots creep up. We've seen a lot more bigger play rate to combat this. And in terms of what people are taking, there's only a 0.3 difference in the meta share from Vader to Luke, with Vader being the higher on that. But when it comes to people converting to top 8 and obviously winning a tournament, whether it be a PQ or whatever, Luke has actually gone more. It's got a 1% better conversion rate into top 8, and it's got an 8% more conversion to actually winning a whole thing. So I know in my personal views in the tournaments that I've been to, I've definitely seen Luke pilot creep up. I played 2 at my last PQ, and that for me has been not a great matchup for Cad. The new unit that they've got in Admiral Akbar is an issue. You can clear all the stuff, and then on 5 they play 3 units, and you're like, what do I do now? So that's definitely something to look out for. People playing CAD is having an answer for Luke, having an answer for Akbar in specifically. But for me and my point of view on Berlin and Indy, I think blue-green villain is definitely going to creep up It's definitely going to be something that is having more play from our results here in the UK. We've seen Krennic do really well. We've seen Piet Blue, do really well. So I think them two leaders are going to make a surprise, at Berlin or at Indi, in being the deck that can beat CAD but also beat most of the other meta. We really love Krennic here on the team. Really, really love Piet Blue, and I think that's going to make a surprise showing. And maybe that switches your idea about Indi. If there's 5 Krennics in the top 8 with 100% win rate into CAD, is that gonna that could change on something? So yeah. Has anyone got anything else to talk about? Sectors, thoughts? What do you think is going to win? I'm going to say that. Alex? What do you think is going to take down the whole both sectors?
I think just we're gonna see 2 CAD wins. Honestly, it's not an exciting take, but it's just kind of seems inevitable at this point.
Okay, Josh.
I hope it's not CAD, but I think it might be. But let's just, for the sake of picking something that's not CAD, let's say Piet in Berlin, and we'll go with Vader for Indi.
Okay. I think Berlin is going to be absolutely dominated by Krennic. I think Krennic's going to take down the whole thing. I think it's got legs into most things, as well as Piet Blue. I can see maybe one or two of them doing well. But I think Krennic's going to take it down. For Indi, I actually think Lando Blue is going to take down the whole thing. We saw it creep up in the Galactics and having a good matchup into CAD at that tournament. So I think if people are still taking CAD, which, as we've said, you should do if you are going to go to one of these tournaments, I think that Lando Blue can make some spicy entrances into the top 8 and maybe take down the whole thing.
I also really like Alex's shout out earlier of the Armourer. I played against that last night in person for the first time, and them milling a Darth Maul to steal my units twice on the same turn, absolutely backbreaking. It's a fun deck. It can break a little, but it could also have a bit of legs.
Yeah, I really want Armourer to do well. I think it's really good design of a deck in terms of having fun, but also doing really well. And it's not just ping 1 damage, ping 1, ping 1. It's actually loads of these interactions that you need to come up with, and it's one of them where you can include, every deck can be different. You can include all these different top ends and all these different cards, and every set just brings absolutely broken stuff when it comes into that. So hopefully we'll see one get top 8. If you do, then you can thank us for taking them. So that's what we think about sectors. Again, if you have any questions about it, if you are going to one of these, please let us know down below what you're going to be taking, what your thoughts are, if we've made anything that's maybe completely wrong, or you agree, or anything you wanted to add to the discussion of these two. As I said, we think CAD's going to be dominated, but
similar to my last section. Can I ask one question again?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the knock-on effect of the sectors is? Like, is it a CAD ban? Is it not a CAD ban? What do we reckon?
I'll let Alex start with that.
I guess that depends on it's so hard to say because in terms of the results, I'll be consistent with what I've been saying. I think CAD's going to show up and show out and dominate and be his Bon Barrage for now. I think he'll come back in the future after a set or two. I think that's gonna be the result. Then we'll have a new meta, kind of the force throw ban that post Galactics meta last year, where it's gonna shake things up quite a bit. I'd be interested to see what comes out of it. But yeah,
I think it's going to maybe remove CAD from the meta and not be worth a ban. I think these new decks, from our testing, has done really well into it and can compete with the meta. You always have that knock-on effect of a deck's doing well, you then have another deck that beats it, and then now you need to beat that, and then it's just a knock-on thing. So as I said, Krennic and Piet Blue, I think are good to wipe the floor with it. But who knows? It could be wrong.
Let's watch this weekend. It'll be a good watch either way.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to end it on a nice note for people, talking about the game in general, talking about progressing yourself as an individual, whether you be on a team, whether you're, a single player just playing with friends and you're wanting to get better. We want to talk about how a top player, as Alex is, what makes a top player? What makes it? Is it a team? Is it environment? Is it reps? What do you think is making a good top player in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of the above is the non-fun and not easy answer. But I think because there's a lot of boxes to check. I think I always say like doing well at a tournament, you need to have like the skill, the preparation, and the luck. All the above, like you'd be able to do well. And but I think going back to that, I think what I'll call out myself that really impacted my growth as both a player in this game and in other games as well was really just simply just being able to learn from all my losses is a big thing.
Mhm.
And I can tell a quick story about when I played Street Fighter competitively a little bit. And I used to like when Street Fighter 5 came out, like 2016-ish, I would get so upset for my losses. I would rage, be the typical gamer, like want to throw the controller, like immature. And I never focused on like why I was losing. So I got stuck in like the silver leagues, like one of the lowest leagues of the whole online ladder, and like quit the game for a while. Several years later, I picked it back up again during COVID, and so when I started losing, I actually picked up a big giant whiteboard. I started listing out like what are the 7 most common reasons I lost. So like I dropped my combo, I like jumped too much, and for whatever specific things I had for that game. I started doing tally marks of like each mistake I made, and like calculating that, and like figuring out where to focus on my improvement efforts. And I started dramatically growing as a player. I went all the way up to like through silver, past gold to like platinum and climbing when I quit Street Fighter. I took a break from it. And it's honestly what I used to help me grow as a TCG player as well. I think it can be really easy to be like, oh, I got unlucky, or I didn't draw my whatever, so on and so forth. But I think in every game, almost every game, you can find situations where you could have done something a little bit differently that could have changed that, possibly changed the outcome. Sometimes no, it's a card game. Sometimes you play perfectly and can't change the outcome. And that's also something you have to be able to deal with. But I think that's the biggest thing. I'll stop there. Is like be able to learn from my mistakes and grow from that is probably the biggest thing that I'm able to do. And it's a small changes too over time. It's never one eureka moment that changes the game dramatically. It's just these little tiny moments that over time. So I'll stop there. I mean, Josh, what do you want anything to have to add to that? Or yeah.
Yeah, kind of building on that, I think first off, what makes a top player? I'm going to answer that very quickly and say I don't know because I'm not a top player. But I can appreciate being around top players. Our team have followed them, and speaking to those guys. We have team calls. We kind of chat, and I'm always more of a listener than a contributor because I'm trying to soak up what those guys are doing. And something Kyle mentioned, I think last week when we spoke, was around not just falling in love with like the result of like work. So Kyle had put together this like when he was preparing for sectors in the previous sets, he would make slide decks on how to approach each matchup. And it's all well and good Kyle then sharing that slide deck with someone, but knowing the process and how to make the slide deck, how to make those decisions around what makes a matchup winnable, what cards are essential in certain scenarios. That's the process I've got to find myself moving towards. And it's not something I've done yet, but I'm trying to head in that direction. And I think a lot of people probably in similar positions, and it's about trying to find that process that's going to work for you to help you break down different matchups and understand where your lines are and how to find the winnable cards in the right moments. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm going to try and keep up with them two answers. Um, you know, us as a team, especially after Galactics, we've definitely taken a bit of a step back from the game. We tested pretty much as soon as we could, every day straight until Galactics, and I think it's good to step back and have maybe a week or so and just go have a break from the game. So I know a lot of people, as I said, people, friends and stuff that are going to be queues, they go to all of them and they test and they grind and they always, are like, oh, I'm not sure why I'm not doing well, or I'm not sure I'm doing this. And I think it's actually really good just to take a break, step back from it. I teach my students that when I teach graphic design is, when you're working on something for so long, you're not sure what the answer is. It's just stepping back for a minute and coming back to it, and then maybe you find that maybe that changes, your rhythm, your sort of enthusiasm for the game, or even just thinking, I didn't, find that out about a specific deck or a play line or a card. So I think one of my advice would be just to sit back and just say, right, let's take a minute, go on holiday, go to the park, have a drink, get some fresh air. In the heat, try and get some fresh air. But yeah, it's taking that step back, and what we've done. You don't, if you've got a few people that play the game, or your local, store or something, and what we have found as a team is not all of us looking into one game and all of us giving our analysis on it. It's actually two people just playing and one person overlooking. They can see both sides of it. They can overlook and they can see what cards they've got, what cards these guys have got. And then after the game, it's debriefing and it's saying, okay, why do you feel like you've lost? Why do you feel like you won? Did you was it luck? Was it an insane top deck that, got you the answer? Or was it because, on resource 2 or 3, you did this in a certain way, which you don't normally do? Or is it because another factor that's come up, and it's maybe this, you did your leader or you passed a crucial point? And I think it's going on to what Alex was saying. It's taking the time to actually reflect after a game, and looking into specifically, we record all our games. We record all of our games, whatever format we're playing. And afterwards, we can make notes. We can look at a team, whether it be a specific matchups. Yeah, I'll try to stop there because I'm just rambling now. But definitely, if you can, just get someone else to look over for you. I'm sure that will help progress you further. And you don't need a team for that. You don't need a team. You can do it yourself. You can just record games and come back to it. And I think that's, making that progression is definitely what makes a top player in this game.
I think as well, when you're testing, right, we want to make sure that we're allowed to make those mistakes. Like if you, when we play as a team, it's often a case of like you kind of go a few moves into a turn and it's like, that's not quite the best play line. When you're practicing, it's okay to say, oh, maybe let's try exploring that turn again if I do something a little bit different in a different order.
Yeah.
Like being able to, especially when you're practicing with friends and teammates, like explore different play lines and see how they play out differently with your teammates for sure.
Alex, obviously your team, Blue Milk Gaming, has consistently done well, whether that be at sectors, regionals, top 8s, winning. What do you feel like? Obviously, you don't have to give away your secrets. You don't have to give away some things that maybe you don't want to say. But is there anything that you feel like you, as a team, are doing differently and maybe want to share with people?
I don't think there's any like magic or secret sauce. I think, well, from my point of view, like my own betterment, like I found people who are better than me. I think that's like step one as well, and finding like you don't even need to have official team. You just have people to play with. That's how it started. Like for me, before I had a team, it was just a matter of like the Blue Moon Gaming Discord was just my personal playtest server of like friends and friends of friends that I thought were like past the check of like someone I wanted to hang out with and play the game with, um it's not always it can be hard to find like a dedicated team, but I think just finding people you enjoy playing with is the first step, whether you have a team or not. And so that's kind of what I did for Blue Moon Gaming. And then we have like a partnership with LXO and a couple other mutual friends. We have like a more of a dedicated testing group with like over a dozen of us. So as a 4-person, or even we're 4 persons on the official team, we do have the benefit of that additional resources there with the combined team. So it's definitely, all these things are hard to do alone. Even though it's a solo game, it is hard to get the right reps you need and figure, the deck out you need to have all on your own. So I'll do a quick plug for our own BMG's Discord. I do online tournaments every Sunday night. It's, I know, a bit late for anyone outside the US, but we also have a pretty active looking for game channel that I'm pretty proud of. Because there's one thing I love about our community is like I know that I struggle when I'm just jamming random queue on online platforms that won't be named. It can be hard to find quality reps, but if you find someone through Discord or through a community, it's a lot better to get good practice and level up your game that way. So but yeah, again, no real secret sauce, just a lot of hard work and a lot of games played and a lot of putting our heads together. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Well, is there anything else, Josh, that you want to cover? You want to talk about? Maybe you've missed or not spoken about today?
No, just really glad to be on. It's been good fun. Yeah, that's all for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you guys have got some new knowledge. You've now know 100% what you're taking to the sectors. You're going to take it down by our amazing advice. But please let us know in the comments whether you want to add something that we said, or maybe that we've missed something that you feel passionate about and want to talk about, especially when it comes to what makes a top player, or even just what makes a consistent player in this game, not necessarily a top player. But that's going to be all from us. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.